Hi, I'm Evilise Page, and thanks for listening to the Believe Big podcast, the show where we take a deep dive into your healing with health experts, integrative practitioners, biblical faith leaders, and cancer thrivers from around the globe. Welcome to today's episode on the Believe Big podcast. My name is Evilise Page, and I am so honored to be able to spend this time with you. Are you or someone you know going through a cancering process and unsure what you should be eating? Are you confused by the many cancer diets out there and want some great insight on how to approach nutrition? Well, you're at the right place. My guest today is Jess Kelly, who is the Master Nutrition Therapist. She's an Oncology Nutrition Consultant, a teacher, writer, a nutrition education program developer. Jess also has been an oncology nutrition consultant for over a decade and has extensive experience working with cancer and chronic illness clients from around the globe. She is also the co-author of 2 books, including the best-selling Metabolic Approach to Cancer, and is the founder and director at the Oncology Nutrition Institute, which provides online certification programs for professionals and education for the public in therapeutic metabolic nutrition. Jess has completed certifications in environmental science, endocrinology, and blood chemistry analysis, methylation, and clinical nutrigenomics, and much, much more. Wow. Welcome, Jess, to the show.
Wow, thank you so much. That was quite the intro. I guess I'm old. It starts to pile up. Thank you so much for having me. It's always such a thrill to speak with you. So thanks.
We are so thankful that you could take the time to be with us today. And, you know, I always like to ask those who I meet and those who I've known for a long time, because people always ask as well, what is each person's favorite health tip? And so to start off the show today, I would just love to know, what is your favorite health tip that you can share?
What a great question, and such an important part of a place to start. I think when people get a diagnosis, they want to start everything and do everything and dive into as much complexity as they possibly can. And, where we've really started to go is to just bring things back to base camp. And I think that the best health tip to get people just started is talking about hydration. That's where we are this month. I mean, it's amazing how rampant dehydration is in the cancer population, and it goes so unnoticed. And, the symptoms of dehydration are really common things that you wouldn't think about, like having a little headache or some poor memory or some constipation. But, water is involved with aiding food digestion and regulating that acid balance base. And so, I think that hydration is, the first place to start. And then once, you get people going on a roll of trying to drink, half their body weight in ounces a day of water, you got to kind of look at the water source. So, we have a lot of clients that walk through the door and they're like, oh yeah, I drink a bunch of water, but maybe they're drinking tap water. And we love what the Environmental Working Group offers, which ewg.org. You could go into their water database and plug in your zip code and see what could be in your groundwater or wells or anything like that. And it's just, tap water today has so many different toxins in it. So it's worth just understanding your water. Humans are, estimates vary, 60 to 80% water, and even being 3% dehydrated can make a big difference. So you want good water coming into your system. And so you want to make sure it's filtered. You want to make sure you're not drinking out of plastic water bottles, switch those out for some steel water bottles. And it's incredible. People, it's the first thing we get them started on. I think you see the biggest difference because people have and then it's all of a sudden like, wow, I have more energy. I'm more clear-headed. I've been saying for years, the solution to pollution is dilution. So, we live in a toxic world. So trying to just get water in there and just staying hydrated is just, it sounds so basic. People are like, yeah, drink water, blah, blah. But most people just aren't hydrated with with clean water. And I think that water, we know from research, it's really incredibly healing. So I think if people can take one thing, it's just, hey, I'm going to try to drink enough water today. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's so
good.
good, and I know I used to struggle with that too, and the quality of the water, I found, even out here in Colorado, I was surprised, what was in my water, and, we got a whole home, water filtration system because I also found out that, when you're showering, your skin is your largest organ, so
Right.
you're breathing in that steam from chemicals and things that can be in that water, but for someone starting out, what's a great filter, say, that they can grab,
Hmm.
that isn't too expensive, that could just start them on the right process?
Yeah, we've been referring people and using ourselves the Berkey filters because
Love
they're
them.
all different sizes, and I've actually put them in my travel bag when I've traveled to other places. Like if I know I'm staying in a hotel or something where you're just not going to get great access to water, there's different sizes. So I think that that's kind of
Yeah,
convenient. And I mean, even just adding a little bit of organic lemon juice to your water can help to neutralize some of the toxins in there. So short of going out and spending money on an expensive filter, even just thinking about, add a little bit of lemon juice in there. And that's why they, historically had put it on the side of water, is to help to purify the water to some extent. So,
that's great.
yeah, or just even adding some mineral drops or something, into your water so that you're getting those. I could go on about water, but they,
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, we might have to do another show just on water.
we
I mean,
should do yes.
some of these topics that we're tackling today could literally be an hour.
Yeah.
And so, and trying to give people a quick taste on some really things that they can do to improve their health now.
Mhm, mhm.
But before I get into the questions that I've been asked to ask you, I really wanted to, see if you could share with us, for those people who are new to nutrition, what exactly is metabolic nutrition?
Yeah, what a great question. Um, so when we look at what's been happening in standard of care, we're seeing what I'm referring to as allopathic nutrition. So allopathic nutrition, it's a word coined back in the 1800s of sort of alleviating symptoms through medications or interventions that go opposite of biology. So suppressing, blocking, those type of actions. So in the nutrition world, what we're seeing is, people are, what they're getting for advice is some of these meal replacement drinks to
Hmm.
try to keep weight on, right? So what we're hitting is the symptom of weight gain. And sort of this antiquated nutrition mindset is like, okay, well, we're going to combat that with calories. So we're going to come at this just with a caloric dense drink that's maybe got high fructose corn syrup and inflammatory soybean oil to get people to gain weight. But unfortunately, it's not working with biology because some of the other components are, going to cause high blood sugar and inflammation and so forth. So metabolic nutrition is really working to enhance metabolic function. And metabolism is basically how your body breaks down your food and turns it into energies and different compounds to facilitate your immune system and your genome and inflammation processes. So, metabolic nutrition is looking at what the body requires, as far as macronutrients, micronutrients, and making sure that that's optimized. 90% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. So, metabolic nutrition is like, well, instead of like, addressing the fallout of low vitamin D, we're like, let's optimize it. So metabolic
Mm,
nutrition is really about optimizing your function and making sure that everything that the human body requires, which we do require nutrients, is at adequate levels, or even higher. So that's working with biology.
that's great. That's great. So, you had mentioned about weight gain, and that's a question that a lot of patients really struggle with sometimes when they're in a cancering process. And,
Mhm.
you know, I have patients that have shared with us that, yeah, I'm losing a lot of weight because of my treatments. And so my doctors have shared to eat whatever I want to keep the weight on, or to drink Ensure. What are some healthy options that are easy that patients can do to keep the weight on?
Mhm. Yeah, unfortunately, that's such a pervasive myth. Eat whatever you want, just don't lose weight is, for some folks, the only nutrition advice that they're hearing. And that's that whole calories will combat it. But what we know with weight loss is a lot of times it can be driven by two things. The first is inflammation. So getting for people to get that inflammation down. And so doing things like adding fish, wild caught fatty fish like salmon, sardines, those type of things, or cod liver oil, or some of those anti-inflammatories are really going to help. Protein also helps.
Mm.
So what we need is to bring down the inflammation and increase protein, because protein is what is involved in rebuilding the body. So it's a lot of times with cachexia, it's a metabolic process that's dysregulated. So the cancer kind of causes the body to digest itself, basically,
Mm.
and that's driven largely by inflammation. So that's kind of the first step, is doing anti-inflammatories. It depends on what kind of treatment someone's in, but more turmeric and those omega-3s and magnesium and sort of some of those nutrients to kind of bring down the inflammation. Then the second driver that happens with the weight loss is a lot of these treatments are very hard on the digestive tract. So we say in nutrition, you're not what you eat, you're what you digest. So if you have damage to your gut lining, you may not be absorbing what you're eating. So we've really focused, especially for folks who are going, into treatment or who are in treatment already, is just GI repair. I love the GAPS diet for that reason. It's the gut and psychology syndrome, a lot of collagen, bone broth, those type of things that will keep those tight junctions together. Also zinc, picolinate's really important for maintaining the integrity of the GI tract. So a lot of times people say, oh, I want to wait to get started on nutrition before treatment. And it's like, our message is you need really will do so much better going through treatment if you can kind of improve your health before you go in. So optimizing digestion, looking at inflammation. If you've got someone who's got high inflammation markers, you want to get those down before they start treatment so they'll respond better to the treatment, less side effects. So we're really looking at doing anti-inflammatory type diets, getting out grains, getting out sugar, those kind of things, while also optimizing like really nutrient dense anti-inflammatory foods at the same time. um, and healthy fats, coconut oil, MCT oil, those type of fats that are going to be beneficial in addition to providing calories. So it's not just calories, it's type of calories.
Yeah, I agree. And, one of the things that I love about what you all do at Remission Nutrition is I saw that you have a new metabolic rehab recipe guide now available. And I'll share the link in our notes at the end of the podcast as well for those that are interested in purchasing, because I dive into so many cookbooks and it can bombard one with so many recipes and you can get overwhelmed. But what I love is that you just have a few key recipes that patients can just master those. And if they integrate that into their weekly and their meal choices, oh my goodness, they're so far ahead of someone else. And so I love the tangible, easy, here are the few to start with. And so, what tip can you share from that guide that would be helpful for patients in incorporating that into their diet?
Yeah, we found the same thing, is that a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it too, I order this beautiful cookbook and I'm so excited. And then I flip through it and I'm like, I'm so overwhelmed. And I don't even know where to start, or, it just seems like information overload. So what we've found is that, just giving our clients a couple new recipes here and there, and just so you get fast. So I think what happens in the kitchen is, for people who've never cooked with cauliflower, for example, it's a completely foreign experience and it's also time consuming. So, I think if you can just master one or two recipes, it becomes easier to integrate. And so you just, with that guide, it's like, hey, pick one a week and just just add that one new recipe this week, and that's it. And if you do, you've succeeded. I think so many plans out there, like, you got to get going on this and this and this, and people start to feel really pressured and that they have to do it all right then. But it's like learning a new language, changing the way you eat. You're also changing your ingrained habits and patterns and maybe what your family likes. And so it's just really, the key part is getting to maybe learn different foods that you've never purchased before and trying it a couple times. And then all of a sudden you're like, geez, I've got this, recipe that I use once a week. I eat the granola, every day. Most people, they found, eat the same 3 meals. So we
Yes.
don't need to let's keep it simple. Let's find your 3 favorite breakfasts. Let's find your 3, doesn't need to be more choices. The more we get paralysis by analysis. So we've really found that just getting people psyched on one thing changes the whole game, and they're more motivated to try something else. So that's the idea, which is sort of these more concentrated recipe guides.
I love that. I love that. And, you touched on it, right before we shared about the guide, about protein and salmon. And, there's so many misconceptions on what a patient should be eating. I remember when I was going through my cancering process 13 years ago, it was no meat at all. And I went through phases of different diets, and how great that individuals have Remission Nutrition to help through knowing exactly what their body needs. But, you know, some people say vegan, some people say ketogenic, plant-based. What do you say?
I say it's the patient, not the protocol. So that's where we have to go with personalized nutrition. It's not everyone who walks in the door is going on keto. It doesn't work that way. We know everyone has completely unique responses to different dietary therapies. And I'll tell you, I've at least, like, in the last, since however long I've been doing this, since we've been talking, what's really changed the game a little bit is genomics. I mean, someone's genes are telling us why. Oh, I went on a ketogenic diet, my cholesterol went through the roof. Well, we've got a gene for that. Oh, I want to be on a vegan diet. Well, let's look at your genes for that. So it's sort of really getting a good sense of who the person is and then tailoring the protocol to them. And we run into this all the time. Like, our students will say, well, I've got a client who's got this and this and this. And it's like, well, it depends. It depends.
Mhm.
Every person is so complex and they will respond differently. And I think as practitioners, we also have to be willing to adapt what we believe to what the patient is responding to. So if someone comes in and they're like, I tried it for a month and I really don't feel good, or, my digestion's changed, and we do our best and we troubleshoot, then it's like, let the practitioners need to let their ego go and say, okay, well, let's make this for you. So where one person, 2 breast cancer cases, same age, same diagnosis, one person could maybe do great on a ketogenic diet. They've got the genes, they've got the hydrochloric acid, they've got the gallbladder function, they've got there's so many different variables that come into it. And then someone else could say, yeah, a vegan diet for me for a month has been great. We see sort of these plant-based diets can be really helpful short term for people who have a lot of inflammation, those kind of things. We do get too much protein in the United States, not the right kind of proteins either. And then you just have to kind of monitor and say, hey, how do your labs look? It's like with this muscle wasting and the weight loss, we see it over and over again. Their protein levels are low on their labs. So we have to kind of adapt dietary protocols sort of based on what the person's going through at the time. And it shouldn't always stay the same. So we need to adapt and we need to change based on what someone has for side effects or symptoms or goals or, all those different types of things. So there is no one right diet. And I think that that's why diet books have been the most best-selling, because everyone wants to find just tell me what to do, just tell me what diet. But it takes more. And that's why, metabolic nutrition therapy is so important. It's just so we get as many assessments as we're able to. And if that's just even verbal, perfect. Then we kind of know where to start, where someone's motivation is, what they can tolerate, that type of stuff. So it depends on the individual. There is what their diet is. And that's really what it comes down to. And it's frustrating to our students when they're like, just tell me what to do. But we need to start taking more back from the patient and less the protocol that we give them. So that's where that's where we at. I don't know if it helps
I
to
love
answer
it.
your
No, it
question, but
does. It does. And it goes back to what we all should be doing in all areas in the
yeah.
cancering process is we're individuals,
Mhm.
and what is right for one person may not be right
Yeah.
for another. And so, I always visualized um, my journey as a Trivial Pursuit piece, and what wedge did I need to put in, to help me to be whole. And so for
Yeah.
each person, that's different. And so I love that you say with nutrition, it's the same thing. We need to individualize our care and not have it just be standardized so that we
Right.
have real results and real differences. And so, you shared about that. But so walk us through what a patient would experience if they call you for help.
Yeah. Well, first, we have such an amazing team. At the end of the day, we just got off of we have weekly team meetings and we work really closely. So every client who comes in the door really does have ears on from sort of the whole team. We sort of troubleshoot different questions, that sort of stuff. So anyway, if someone calls, they're going to talk to Carrie. She's our headquarters operator right now, and sort of she'll get a sense of what someone's looking for as far as people come in with all different levels of education. People are like, oh, I'm self-taught, I know what to do. I just kind of want to fine tune. Or some people, want more support, and so kind of help figure out, whether they just want one consult or a package of consults. I'll tell you, we see the best results for people who stick with us longer, obviously, because a lot of it too is a little bit. We do nutrition therapy, but we joke that the therapy is sort of the bigger part. So a lot of people come in. We talk to them about food as much as they want, but a lot of people also just need someone to talk to. And our team, our consultants, they're the most lovely, compassionate, caring. That's why I hand pick them and groom them, because they're kind. And what breaks my heart is when I hear people, oh, I went to my doctor and they were really mean and they didn't listen to me. It's like, no, that's not healthcare. So, what we try to provide, we have the education there to help customize. So then when someone gets through the door, they have a virtual appointment with Jen or Karen and sort of go through and get a sense of that person. We spend time getting to know the clients instead of like, okay, name, age, diagnosis. Like that doesn't tell us much. And then get a sense of sort of what they have been eating, what they like, what they dislike, what their goals are, and then sort of get them going on like, all right, let's get going with this. And some people are up for like, give me everything, tell me everything, I want to know it all. And other people are like, wow, I'm really overwhelmed. Like, just give me a couple bite-sized things to chew on for the next couple weeks. So we sort of depends on the person what they get. And so we really try to tailor each visit to what the person really needs. And a lot of times, sometimes people just want someone to talk to, and we do that too, because it's emotional nutrition, and that's a big part of it. Is sometimes people just need a little love, so that's what we do.
Yes, and I've experienced that myself. I mean, I remember calling you guys years ago. I had had an amazing shake that was like anti-cancer shake, and as soon as I drank it, I would crash like 30
Yeah.
minutes later, and I'm like, it has all these good things in it. Why do not and not feel good? And I remember going through those ingredients with you, and you're, sharing, well, let's replace the coconut water with almond milk, and let's add some, protein to level out, what's in there. Let's remove that pineapple and just stick with the low glycemic blueberries. And, to this day, I still drink that shake post workout because it makes me
Yay.
feel so good.
Ah,
And so it's those little tweaks that I think is really helpful, because sometimes we think we're doing the right things
yeah.
and actually we aren't aware that it's not right for us. So I
Right.
love that you guys walk and talk through things that you're trying and sharing. And which leads me to another big question. And I know that we could spend an hour on just this alone. And again, we might have to get you back for just the sugar topic.
Oh boy.
And in your book, The Metabolic Approach to Cancer, you share that intermittent and consistently elevated levels of blood sugar and insulin are the foundation for all progressive and recurrent cancers. Wow. That sugar stimulates cancer cell growth, promotes the cancer spread, helps cancer resist treatments. I didn't know that. And
Yes.
increases complications from surgery and chemotherapy. You share that sugar paralyzes the entire immune system. Wow. So I can't even believe all those things. I knew that sugar wasn't good for our cancer cells, but I didn't realize that it paralyzes your immune system. So, what strategies have you found with the patients that you work with that have helped them overcome that sugar addiction?
Mm. Yeah, that it's a big one, and it's sugar. It's also a drug. It's a legal drug, so people are addicted to it. So honestly, that's why we named the recipe guide the Metabolic Rehab Recipe Guide. It's getting people off of a drug of choice for a lot of time. It elicits dopamine. It makes them feel good. It's their comfort food. So we sort of come at it, both from like the emotional place of why are you eating sugar? Are you sad? Are you bored? Are you when does it show up in your life? So kind of calling awareness to why and when people eat sugar. And then it's quite fascinating. So one of the things that we have all of our clients do, even before they walk through the door, we have our students do this too, is just track your diet for 3 days in one of those programs, Chronometer or MyFitnessPal or whatever it is. Just track it. Don't change. Just kind of, and you would be amazed. 99% of our students and our clients are like, geez, I had no idea how much sugar and how many carbs I ate, because we just don't track it, and long-term diet tracking can become problematic for some people, which we get, but just at least to get a baseline, it's really helpful, because then when people are aware, like, wow, I'm eating 200 grams of carbohydrates a day or 200 grams of sugar a day. And the American Heart Association recommends that women get no more than 32 grams of added sugar, men no more than 38, kids no more than 18. This is the American Heart Association. And then you tally it, it's like, holy smokes, that just added up really fast. And then that puts it into the client, because they're like, oh, wow, I had no idea. Because what most people think is, wow, I was eating so healthy, but they don't realize that, oatmeal and berries is a sugar bomb to your body. It's a carbohydrate bomb. We were told to replace eggs with oatmeal, and that's been the most catastrophic nutrition advice, since the 1980s. So, once we get people kind of aware of how much they eat, what we found is that, healthy fats have more calories per serving. So when you add in these fats, people are like, oh, I'm not as hungry. I don't have as many cravings. So when you start by balancing blood sugar, and I say it starts with breakfast, we're still stuck in the breakfast, lunch, dinner paradigm, but I think people need to throw that out. It's like broth for breakfast. You bet. They do that in Asia. So if you can start your day with, as low carbohydrate and as low sugar food as possible, then you're not getting on that blood sugar roller coaster where it's like, wow, I had something with a lot of carbs, like a bagel or cereal or oatmeal or, anything like that. And then all of a sudden your blood sugar spikes. You feel good. I got energy. Bam. And then people crash at about 10 o'clock in the morning. And then it's like, oh, now it's time for caffeine instead of water. And then they want something else because they're hungry, right? So it's avoiding starting that. It starts with what you first put in your body in the day. And so I think that if people, the rest of the day we could get to, but if you just, it's how you kind of begin. And I think that that's why the whole, bulletproof coffee took off so much. It's just getting people just some good fats in the morning so that their brain gets some fuel. They don't whack their blood sugar. So it's like kind of revisiting our concepts around what a healthy breakfast is.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, what tools, have you found helpful that you teach your patients to help their treatments work better or to offset the negative side effects of treatment? I know nutrition is such a huge role in, sharing eliminating sugar and trying to avoid those cravings. But what are some other things that patients can do to help their treatments work better for them?
Mm-hmm. This is really important for folks, which is why we always say to try to start nutrition before you start treatment. And, I love the work of Dr. Walter Longo and what he's done with the fasting studies of people in chemotherapy. We were doing this years ago before anyone was doing it. And we're kind of like, let's just see what happens. And I can tell you that our folks that fast, depends on their chemo regime, but, if they fast, anywhere from 24 to 72 hours before their treatment. and then the day of, and then they break their fast with fats. These people, and the research has shown it, lose less hair, they have more energy, they have better digestion, those type of things. We had so many clients over the years that were like, everyone in the infusion room is asking what I'm doing because I'm, tolerating this so much better. And then the next week they show up and they're putting Benadryl in their IV drips so everyone falls asleep and doesn't talk. It's crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, what I have seen provide the most benefit is that fasting pre-treatment and during the day of, because what it creates is what's called differential stress response. So healthy cells, when you're fasting, they they're used to it. We've been fasting for millennia. So they're like, cool, I got it. I know what we can do. But cancer cells, because they're little glucose junkies, are like, feed me, feed me, feed me. So they're destabilized. Everything that we're talking about, it's not a cure. It's not anything like that. It's just a tool in the toolbox. So what I love is fusing nutrition therapy with conventional therapy, because when you walk in and you're getting that chemo treatment and your cancer cells are hungry, they're destabilized. So they take a bigger whack. So they're going to get, if you're going to go through treatment, you might as well get the best bang for your buck. You protect the healthy cells, you target the cancer cells a little bit more. And, I have, with my clinical experience, this is what we've seen provide the most benefit. Not everybody does great with it, but even if you go on a ketogenic diet for 3 days ahead of time and just bring that blood sugar down and get your body running on ketones instead of glucose, it's a destabilizer for those cancer cells. So that's a
Wow.
big one. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
I
What
could keep
other
going.
what other big changes have you found that cancer patients have done with nutrition that has decreased the spread of cancer or caused the cancer cells to die?
hmm
Anything else
Well,
come to mind that
yes. And so I can't say we don't have like research validated data within our company to say that we have caused cancer cells to die. So I just need
right.
to be careful with that
Yes.
languaging. But what as far as what our targets are to improve quality and quantity of life, and so that's where we're aiming. So what we see when people are doing their best going through treatment is they're really reducing glucose, they're getting movement, and they're getting outside, they're getting fresh air, walks. Exercise is really critical during treatment. A lot of people don't feel well through it. Staying hydrated and eating a array of phytonutrients, which is just a fancy name for the vegetables and plants. I mean, excuse me, the nutrients in plants. So say someone has prostate cancer. We know from the research that lycopene, for example, is a phytonutrient that has so many studies showing inhibition of prostate cancer. So it's like, okay, hey, while we're going through treatment, we really work hard to do is kind of modify carbohydrate intake for people to really be targeted to their cancer. So prostate cancer person, we're going to be like, I want you to load up on cooked tomatoes, get some celery for some of the apigenin to decrease the spread. Someone has breast cancer. Let's get you going on more of the cruciferous vegetables to get that indole 3 carbinol. So we really work to craft those carbohydrate, currency, because we keep people on a low carbohydrate diet to make sure that it matches the cancer and also the treatment. There's a lot of different I couldn't believe when I started digging into all this when we were developing the program, all the research between certain phytonutrients that support the actions of different chemotherapy agents. So, for example, there's different chemos that work really synergistically with different types of mushrooms. There's certain chemotherapies that work synergistic with other phytonutrients. And that's where, we work with our clients. We're like, okay, well, what are you on? What are you getting? What's your treatment? So then we can sort of look through the research and say, oh yeah, you should be on X, Y, and Z if you're on a platinum regime, carboplatin, cisplatin, that type of thing. So,
Fantastic.
yeah. And
Wow.
so it just depends on what their process is. If you've got a slow growing cancer, maybe we're doing something else than a GBM that, that's going to happen pretty quick. It just depends on the aggressiveness and what their treatment is. It's really, if you start going down the rabbit hole of the nutrients that work synergistically with different chemotherapies, it's incredible. And that's really what we like to share with our clients is what they can do to help enhance the effects. So
Wow. Well, I really appreciate all that you do. I mean, it's amazing all the different ways that you help to make that quality of life so much better through such a difficult process. As we close our show today, can you leave us with some easy things that we can just start doing today to improve our health besides drinking water? You shared that one. What is something else, or what are a few things that anyone can do to improve their health?
Yeah, I was thinking I need to you know me, I don't understand social media. I don't even know what a hashtag is, but I was like, if I develop a hashtag, I want to just say add garlic. Just
Mm,
add garlic. Just add garlic every single day. It's
I
when
love
people are
garlic.
feeling sick, I say take 2 cloves of garlic, some fresh oregano, some lemon juice, and blend it up in your juicer and pound that puppy. It's so fast and so easy, and garlic is so it's 40 times more stronger than penicillin. It's got
Wow.
so many anti-cancer effects, and it's just so easy and it makes things taste good. So I think if I could get people to drink water and have a clove of garlic a day, I think, you'd be setting yourself up for success. So adding garlic, any of those allium family, the onions, leeks, shallots, chives, those are just really great. I think people start to get into the deprivation mindset of like, oh, I got to take this out and this out. And they're like, I have cancer and now I can't eat anything. It's like, gosh, what a drag. So I think people need to think about adding first if they're feeling overwhelmed or depressed or just sort of anything like that. So what can you add? And the place to do it is just adding new vegetables. Add an extra vegetable that you've never had. Just I'm a big fan of just having some fresh made salsa, fresh made pesto, fresh made chimichurri in my fridge. And I'm like, ooh, this is a fast meal. Slap a little thing of sauce on there, and you're adding so many good nutrients. So it's just adding diversity and getting fresh vegetables, I think, is just it's really pretty easy, and people would be surprised at how satisfying they are. So that's a big one. Water and add garlic.
Well, I love those. I love garlic too. So, that's easy for me to add into, and I'm sure, many others as well. So, thank you so much for joining us today. I wish we could stay on for another hour,
I
but
know.
and I appreciate you sharing your knowledge and insight on how we can use nutrition best to overcome cancer. And so, thank you again for joining us and your time today.
Thank you for having me. I could talk all day with you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support our podcast, please subscribe and share it with others. Be sure to visit believebig.org to access the show notes and discover our bonus content. Thanks again, and keep believing big.